Hello and welcome to this video. In this video I would like to give you a presentation about code 19 in the Quran. I would like to discuss Surah 9 verses 128 and 129 and show you that the Quranic versions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and Ubay ibn Ka'b are wrong. The numbers represented in this video are based on the Hafs Quran. The miracle of 19 is mentioned in Surah 74 verse 30. Do you know what Saqar is? It does not spare nor leave anything. Manifest to all the people. On it is 19. The miracle is based on multiples of 19. Using this system, we can now determine whether there were additions to the Quran or not. But let me start by starting a few simple facts. The Basmala consists of exactly 19 Arabic letters, which is 19 times 1. The Basmala is the introductory sentence of the Quran and means in English "in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate", and this expression is called Basmala. Every word that is in the Basmala can be found in the numbered verses of the Quran as a multiple of 19. The first word is Ism, which means name. This word occurs 19 times, which is 19 times 1. The second word is Allah, which means God. This word occurs 2698 times, which is 19 times 142. The third word is Ar-Rahman, which means the merciful. This word occurs 57 times, which is 19 times 3. The fourth word is Ar-Rahim, which means the compassionate. This word occurs 114 times, which is 19 times 6. Out of more than 100 attributes of God, only 4 attributes have a numerical value that is a multiple of 19. But what is a numeric value? We use in the Western world the Latin alphabet, and this alphabet was also used as a number system at the time of the Romans. The I stands for 1, the V for 5, and the X for 10, and so on. And in the Arabic world, this was also done at the time of Muhammad. Here in the picture, you can see each Arabic letter with its corresponding numerical value. The first word Wahid, which means 1, this word has a numerical value of 19, which is 19 times 1. The second word is Dhul Fadlul Azim, which means owner of the mighty favor. This word has a numerical value of 2698, which is 19 times 142. The third word is Majid, which means glorious. This word has a numerical value of 57, which is 19 times 3. The fourth word is Jam'a, which means gatherer. This word has a numerical value of 114, which is 19 times 6. And the Quran has 114 surahs, which is 19 times 6. Although a Basmala is missing in Surah 9, the Basmala occurs again in Surah 27 verse 30, though the frequency of the Basmala is 114, which is again 19 times 6. The distance from the missing Basmala to the additional Basmala is exactly 19 surahs. The total sum of all verses in the Quran, including the unnumbered verses in the Quran, is exactly 6346, which is 19 times 334. 29 chapters of the Quran begin with 14 different letters combinations of 14 different letters. Their frequency shows an interlocking system based on the number 19. Let us now turn to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's version of the Quran. He is said to have been a companion of the Prophet, just like Ubay ibn Ka'b. In the traditions we can find claims that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud removed 2 surahs from the Quran, and that Ubay ibn Ka'b added 2 surahs. I will now use code 19 to show that these 2 versions of the Quran are false. You can now see on the picture an Excel table that represents the Arabic Quran based on the number 19. If we add up all the verse numbers, we get the number 6555. Which is 19 times 345. And if we add up all the verses, we get 6346, which is 19 times 334. If we now remove the last 2 surahs of the Quran, we only have 112 surahs, and the number of Basmalas drops to 110. If we now change the numbers delete Surah 113 and 14 so we do not get multiples of 19. In both cases we get decimal numbers, as can be seen in the picture. Thus, the mathematical code of the Quran says that the Quranic version of Abdullah ibn Masud is wrong and that the text has been changed. Let us now look at the Quran of Ubay ibn Ka'b. He is said to have added 2 surahs in the Quran. Here you can see the Arabic text of this alleged surah. This surah is said to consist of 5 verses, and here you can see the second surah, which is said to consist of 4 verses. Here you can see the table again. That would be Surah 115 with 5 verses and chapter 116 with 4 verses. So we have 6786 for the sum of the surahs and 6355 for the sum of all verses. As you can see, both are not multiples of 19, but decimal numbers. Let us now come to the conclusion. The mathematical coding of the Quran protects the Quran from any additions and shows that the Quran was protected in a supernatural way. Thus, the 2 Quranic verses of Abdullah ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b are false. However, whether these 2 really had different Qur'ans is not certain. In any case, it shows that the ahadith are not reliable sources. Let us now turn to Surah 9 verses 128 and 129, and how the mathematical coding does not include these 2 verses in the Quran. The first thing to mention clearly is that God has protected the Quran, as he says in Surah 15 verse 9, "We, indeed we, it is we who have sent down the reminder, and indeed it is we who will preserve it." God explicitly says here that he has sent down the Quran and will protect it, which God does by encoding the Quran mathematically. I will now use further tables to show how the Quran was protected. The first verse in the Quran is the Basmala. The Basmala occurs at the beginning of every surah. The Basmala can also be called the signature of God. The interesting thing is that the 2 added verses are in Surah 9. This means that God already knew that people would add 2 verses to the Quranic codex. The Basmala consists of 19 Arabic letters, and each of its words occurs as a multiple of 19 in the numbered verses of the Quran. I will now show the surah numbers and verse numbers in which these words occur. The word ism occurs exactly 19 times, and in the written form bism exactly 3 times. The word Allah occurs exactly 2698 times. Here you can see the surah numbers and verse numbers. The word Rahman occurs 57 times. Here you can see the surah numbers and verse numbers. The word Rahim occurs 114 times. Here you can see the surah numbers and verse numbers. Many mathematical parameters of the Quran are linked to this first verse of the Quran. Let us now read Surah 9 verses 128 and 129. There has certainly come to you a messenger from among yourselves. Grievous to him is what you suffer. His concern over you, it means your guidance, and to the believers is kind and merciful, Rahim. But if they turn away, O Muhammad, say, sufficient for me is Allah. There is no deity except Him. On Him I have relied, and He is the Lord of the great throne. We have exactly 2 words in these 2 verses that are included in the Basmala. The first word is Rahim, and is used for the first time in its singular form for someone other than God, and it is a name of God, which is used exclusively in the Basmala only for God. Thus the number would rise to 115, which is not a multiple of 19. The second word is Allah, which occurs once too often here in verse 129. If we count this, we'll get the word Allah exactly 2699 times, which is not a multiple of 19. If we now look at our table, we see that the mathematically coded Quran has exactly 127 verses in the Surah 9. If you now replace the number 127 with the number 129, the number of verses increases to 6348, and we no longer get a multiple of 19, but a decimal number. The coding reports an error. It means someone has added something. Now we come to the second table. Here you can see the occurrence of the word Allah. On the left column, you can see the surah number in which the word Allah occurs, and in the middle column, the verse number. And in the right column, you can see how often the word Allah occurs. If we now look at the results, we see that the sum of the word Allah is 2698, which is 19 times 142. The sum of all the verse numbers of the word Allah is 118,123, which is 19 times 6,217. And the sum of all the verse numbers is 39,045, which is 19 times 2,055. As can be seen, the Quran has been protected by God in a supernatural way. If you now go to Surah 9 and add the word Allah in verse 129 and add the word Allah once in the right hand column, because the word Allah occurs once too often, we see that in all three results there are no multiples of 19. We get decimal numbers instead. Now we come to the last table. As I mentioned, the word Bism occurs in the numbered verses of the Quran in three different places. The first Bism is in Surah 1 verse 1, the second Bism is in Surah 11 verse 41, and the third Bism is in Surah 27 verse 30. From the first Bism to the second Bism there are exactly 1520 verses, which is 19 times 80. From the second Bism to the third Bism there are exactly 1691 verses, which is 19 times 89. And from the third Bism to the end of the Quran there are exactly 3135 verses, which is 19 times 165. If we now add the two verses in Surah 9 and set the number of verses to 129, we do not get a multiple of 19. The miracle of 19 prevents additions from being made to the Quran, and thus all Qurans that contradict the mathematically coded Quran can be refuted. Some now criticize that Rashad Khalifa, the discoverer of the miracle, did not count the word Allahumma. Edip Yüksel has given a good answer to this in his book 19 God's Signature in Nature and Scripture on page 151. You can read it here. My sources are based on Edip Yüksel's book and the book by Rashad Khalifa, Quran, a visual presentation of the miracle.